So, Simon, thank you so much for volunteering or to speak to us today a little bit about your business. So, just to give you an introduction to Simon, Simon has a 25-year background in sales, marketing and operations roles in various businesses in the UK from startup to board level. So he's here today to speak to us about his new company, InWeb Design. Simon has a proven track record of innovation, nurturing ideas from origination through to delivery and commercial success. So he's successfully applying his experience through InWeb Design. So it takes a different, affordable and personalised approach to helping small local businesses with their website. So Simon, tell us a little bit more about InWeb Design and what you do.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I've been in sales and marketing and business development and digital marketing for quite some time. So it's kind of drawing upon all of those skills and translating that into a business that helps local small businesses get online and get a website. So I take the pain out of it for the people that I work with and try and simplify the whole process. So I create websites for local businesses, but I do it slightly differently to other web design companies. And that's through the personal approach, but also through the commercial model or the pricing model, which is £10 a week, no upfront costs. And I also do free refreshes. So fashions change, don't they, in all sorts of things, including web design. So if in 3 or 4 years' time,
Okay, see you about 5 o'clock.
the website needs a refresh, then that's included too. So it makes it really affordable for small local businesses.
Fantastic, Simon. Thank you very much. So what are the sort of problems that you solve for your clients?
I think the clients that I work with are they're specialists in what they do, but they don't generally know about websites and web design, quite understandably. People are anxious about what it entails. And I try and simplify that because I take the jargon out of it and I take the complexity out of it, kind of just leave it to me. Um, People are anxious about what budget might be involved. Small businesses generally don't have, a typical web design agency will be charging £500 up front or £1,000 up front, and they'll be charging for the development of the website as well. That's not a budget that the clients that I want to work with have. So I try and overcome those objections and try and make it personal and try and make it something that's a really simple and enjoyable process. Also, often people think, okay, I'm going to have a crack at creating a website on GoDaddy or Wix or Ionos or something like that. That's great. Kind of gets you 60, 70% of what you want, but it doesn't quite look and feel how you want it, and it's not going to help get you found on Google. That's the truth of the matter. So they're the kind of problem that I solve for the companies that I work with.
So those are the problems that you're solving for people. You've got this amazing structure for pricing, which I think is very clever indeed. Is there anything else that makes you different from other website design offerings?
Um, I think the other thing is that once a customer's live, um, for me, a website is a living, breathing thing. It's not kind of a hit and run. There's your website. See you later. I actually want to be part of the business. I want to be, play my part in the long term. I want to build long-term relationships. My customers are coming through customers that are delighted with the website that I create for them. They're delighted with the whole experience, and they kind of new business comes through recommendations. Um, and part of what makes me different is that I'm also the price includes doing updates and embellishments and changes as time goes on because things change, services get introduced, um, people move premises, people change logos, whatever it might be. That's a really important part. So a website's a living and breathing thing. And again, if I'm going to position myself against the traditional way of doing things, I don't charge a significant amount up front. I don't charge anything up front. Um, and those organizations are generally targeting medium and large companies who need a website. They may not even be in the UK, and I think being local, being in Cheltenham, I've been in Cheltenham for 25 years, being local and being personable, meeting the customer, using my experience to draw out of them what they need. Some customers have the content and know exactly what they want. Most don't. And I think from the experience I've got, I draw that out of the customers and help them position themselves online.
Fantastic. So why do businesses need a website?
Well, I think just draw upon your own experiences. I mean, if you're like me, if you want a gardener or you want a dog groomer or you want anybody a local service, I instinctively go online, even if it's just for 30 seconds, just to check out their website. And a website is a really neat way of very quickly getting trust and getting credibility, and for people to, at a glance, understand what you do. And that is the main reason, is that it doesn't have to be complex, but you do need a website. And it's a way of creating awareness, positioning your business, owning your brand, and also making it clear to the outside world the kind of business that you want. Because there may be business that you're doing at the moment that you want to try and shake off, you want to do more of. But basically, it's about credibility, trust, and getting out there and getting an awareness.
Brilliant. So I quite often talk to small businesses, particularly new ones that are starting up or people who don't have a huge budget, who say, well, maybe I don't need a website. I've got social media. There's all the other stuff out there. What would be your answer to them?
Yeah, it's a really good point. Lots of people have a Facebook page, for example, and think they're online. What I would say, and I would say this, wouldn't I, is that I think a website needs to be at the heart of your marketing. And if it's part of the marketing mix, and doing social media is important, but so are other types of marketing. It could be like brochures or flyers or printed content or coming to business networking events or having a business card or putting an advert in a local paper, anything. But my point here is that, in my opinion, all roads should lead back to your website. Facebook's great, but you're up there against or with and alongside your competitors. You haven't really got the freedom, the canvas to communicate your personality and all the tools and all the services and all the products that you might supply. And in that respect, it's quite restrictive. On a website, you've got a blank canvas, you've got complete freedom to position your business and to communicate exactly what you do. With your brand, you've got complete control. And I'm learning this with other organizations that I'm working with. Social media targets specific demographics. The young people aren't on Facebook. Not everybody's on Facebook. And it shouldn't be the be all and end all. It should certainly be part of the mix. But once on a website, your customers can browse the products and services that you offer. They can see what you want them to see. And it enables you to build your brand and and communicate your unique identity. And it reduces your dependence on others. I mean, Facebook could change the rules tomorrow. So I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying a website, in my opinion, should be at the heart of what you do and the center of your marketing.
Fantastic. So you're obviously quite new in business, Simon, because I met you relatively recently. I've already sent you a little tiny small business who hopefully
Yeah,
might be able
thank you
to
very
work
much.
with you. What's your objective for the business going forward?
It's about awareness. It's about, it's a precious opportunity to meet you all this morning and to be part of this session. It's for me, it's about making connections. I'm just as curious and interested to learn about your businesses as well. That's a really important point. But to me, it's about awareness. It's about there are people out there that need me and what I do. So it's trying to make that connection. And the people on this session today, you may all have a website you're very happy with, and so it's twofold for me. It's one, reaching out to you and the people on this session, but it's two, and if anyone needs a website and wants to talk, I'll be obviously more than happy to have that discussion. I'd be delighted to. But equally, if you know anybody in your network that might be suited to the service that I offer, and it's about networking, it's about meeting people, it's about understanding their business, and it's about creating an awareness. So yeah, that's it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Simon, for sharing us about your business and your business model. We have got a couple of moments for some questions, and I can see Lenny has her hand up. Lenny, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sorry, it's my mistake. I tried putting my photo here. I'm so sorry, Simon.
Okay, don't worry about it then. Does anybody else have any questions for Simon?
Hi there. Yes,
Thank you, Lorraine. Go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about SEO. That is such a tricky subject. I just wondered what your take on that was.
Yeah, what I will do is when I create a website, I'll put into the website the key phrases and words that people will look for when they're searching for voiceover artists. So we'll make sure that it's positioned as best as possible to help people find you. And that's something you can't do with Wix and GoDaddy and IONOS and those things. So it's about the meta tags. I won't get technical. Suffice to say, it's about leaning on my knowledge to put into the website the key phrases to help you get found. Now, a completely separate task or a completely separate discussion is about AdWords, and that's about you then proactively investing in marketing you and your service, and that's a separate discussion and requires a budget and requires planning, but that's something equally I can help with. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, no, that's really useful. Thank you.
Okay, I'm mindful. It can be perceived as a bit of a dark art, and it's a bit of an unknown, and it is changing all the time. But suffice to say that for the websites that I create, I'll make sure that the key phrases that are important to you and your business are built into the website, so that when people are searching for voiceover artists or trainers or well-being, that you're going to stand the best possible chance of being found.
Thank you
very much. Any other questions for Simon?
Simon, do you set up the domain hosting for them, set up the domain name for them, or do you get them to do it themselves?
Either. I offer to buy it and host it myself, simply because it's just another part of the complexity of that journey of getting a website. And then I can manage the renewals and I can do all that sort of complicated under the bonnet stuff. But if a customer says, I have a domain and I want to keep it, that's fine too.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Oh, and
one
more question from Bob. Go, Bob.
Simon, what language do you write it in?
I tend to use software called Webflow and WordPress. So I use content management systems that help create really simple, great sites. But Webflow is my weapon of choice at the moment.
Webflow and WordPress?
Yeah, Webflow is my favorite.
Right, okay, excellent.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you very much, everybody else, for engaging. We also welcome each week or each month at Business Breakthrough an expert. Now, we polled the attendees a little while ago about all the different subjects that they'd like to hear about, and I'm currently putting a programme together for the next year so that you will be able to see each month who our expert is. So one of the things that people wanted to find out more about were strategies and tools to grow their business. So because it's August and we're quite busy, Gill has very kindly agreed to step in and do this one because she has a massive toolbox of things that can help everybody. So Gill, you've obviously introduced yourself as the owner of the Business Kitchen, which I've always loved as a name. I met you and your previous partner many, many years ago and found it a really interesting concept. Do you want to just tell us a little bit more about the structure of the Business Kitchen and why you are the right person to be giving this expert talk today?
Thanks, Vicky. I guess one of the things with the Business Kitchen obviously is we have fundamentally changed the model due to the pandemic, but also because Nigel retired in March 2020, ironically, so he could go travelling. So the original concept of Business Kitchen was to bring people together in small groups, and actually the whole ethos of it is that it is practical. There's no standing up and us talking at you for hours. You actually work on your business in the room. So we're now taking that online, and the model is going to be threefold in terms of how people can work with me, and we can talk about that a little bit more towards the end, Vicky. But the mission really is that MSMEs, if you look at Gloucestershire, there's about 29,500 businesses in Gloucestershire, of which 77% employ 4 people or less. So the MSE part of the marketplace is a really, really key part of the local economy. But it's one of the areas that actually doesn't fulfill its potential, and many business owners don't fulfill their potential. And part of our mission is to really help them do that, whatever whatever their goal is. It's not my definition of success; it's their definition of success. I've got far too many years in corporate to mention, running teams and doing process improvement things like Mike and Granger were talking about. But also working with data, and I work with a mentor and have done for the last 3 years. So learning, lots around marketing, around copywriting, but also looking at the fundamentals of a business. What are your foundations? What are those bricks that you need to have in place in order to put up the walls and put up the roof?
Fantastic. So you've seen a lot over the years.
Yeah.
What are the 3 key things that you most frequently see business owners either struggling with or ignoring?
Well, I think the thing that we hear, and everybody hears this, everybody's always struggling with time. I mean, how many times do you hear people say, oh, I'm so busy, or I'm too busy, or I haven't got time to do that? And in my opinion, managing your time is a mindset, and it's an attitude, and it's about making choices. And every time you decide what you're doing next, you just made a choice. It might not be the right choice. It might be the easy choice, but nonetheless, it was a choice. And people need to take control of their time rather than allowing other people to control it. I think the things that people ignore, which comes back to what a couple of people have already said in their introductions and things, is people don't really look at their business model. So people start a business, off they go, they start getting customers, but they haven't looked at, what Granger was talking about scalability. They haven't looked at robustness. If you look at a SWOT for any MSME, what's one of the weaknesses? They're it. If they're off sick or they're on holiday, the business stops. That's not really a business. That's really managing a job. And it's so they ignored becoming professional business people and really thinking about the aspects of business that apply to every side of business, but they think doesn't apply because I'm in a small business. It doesn't matter. Things like the websites, things like controls and managing your cash. So ignoring that whole business model strategy and not spending time on your marketing strategy, on your organizational model, on your operating model, on your financials, your compliance, your risk management, means that the business will stay where it is, which if that's what your goal is and you're absolutely happy with that, I have absolutely no problem with that, but just be recognizing that's what you're doing. I think the other thing is that people ignore the why of their business goals. So they have a turnover goal, but they don't ask themselves the question, so that I can what? What am I, so I want 250,000 turnover this year. So what? So I can do what? What's it for? So they have the business goals because they haven't put the business goals in the context of their life goals. You must do your life goals first, and then the business is the facilitator. It's the how you get to those goals. The life goals are your why. Those are your mission and your purpose and how you want to live and where you want to live and how you want to make a difference in society. If you disconnect them, then the business ends up the tail wagging the dog, because there's no real context for You know, how many days do you want to spend working on your business in a year? Have you done your play days? Kay will know about these. We do the three Ps: play days, pay days, and prep days. So how many play days a year do you want? Because that's what the business should be delivering. So I think ignoring some of those foundational pieces means that the whole focus is on lead gen, it's on marketing, which is all well and good, but there's no foundation. And it's the foundation that will make the business have longevity, robustness, deliver more in terms of contribution to the local community. And so it's taking that time out to work on the business, which people are always too busy to do. You know, it's what Stephen Covey talks about, the important, not urgent, until it becomes a crisis, and then it is urgent, and actually you haven't done a quarter of the things that you needed to do, and you're firefighting. And guess what? You haven't got any time. So you end up in this vicious circle, yeah. So don't ignore your strategies is what I would say to people.
Okay, fantastic. That's given us a really good insight there, and again something I see often with my clients who are coming to me with all sorts of mindset problems that haven't got the strategy, the foundations aren't there. So let's come back to time. Time is one of my favourite subjects. What are your top 3 tips to get the most out of your time?
I've got 3 top tips that none of them can I take credit for, because they're either from Brian Tracy or from my mentor. And if you haven't read or worked your way through Eat That Frog from Brian Tracy, I would highly recommend you go and do it. Takes a lot of the Mark Twain stuff, talking about, you know, eating the ugliest frog first and things. The first one I would say is prioritize, and then prioritize again. So prioritize the hell out of what you've got to do. And ask yourself, if you've really got a lot of things that you think must be done today, if you could only do one thing, what's the one thing you absolutely have to get done today? And ignore the rest. Might be hard, but ignore the rest. And I also recommend to people that they have a swear box for several words. One of is I must, one is I should, and the other is actually a phrase which is I ought to. Because none of those serve you well. Because if you say to yourself, I must do, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel up and motivated? No, it makes you feel overwhelmed and really fed up and like, oh God, you know, I just can't get all this done. So prioritization, you know, is the whole thing about the carpet fit, you know, measure twice, cut once. So really prioritize everything. And then once you've done the first thing, prioritize again, because your priorities will be changing throughout the day. Next one is eliminate everything that doesn't either serve you well or serve your business well. And whether that's language patterns or whether it's activities or whether it's customers. We always know Business Kitchen's doing really well when members come back and say, oh, it's a customer. Because it means they're only working with people they really want to work with. Look at your processes. You know, are there things in there that aren't working properly? And then really think about, so eliminate everything that doesn't add value to start with, then automate the hell out of everything that's a process that is repeatable and scalable, because it will make it more scalable and robust. And then delegate. So who can you give things to? People like Lou, I know, has dropped off the call now. You know, are you doing all the things that you should be doing, or are you doing everything? Because you become a jack of all trades, master of none. And it was John Harvey-Jones who said, do what only you can do. You know, you didn't set up your business as a widget maker to do your accounting. So, you know, find a way of outsourcing or employing people. And in the current marketplace, that's really easy because, you know, think of people like VAs, you can buy them for an hour, you know, you can have an hour of their time a week. You're not having to make huge financial commitments for your business to actually start expanding your operating model and making it more robust. And the third one, which is my absolute pet, is avoid multitasking. It does not work. There's also, if you do the numbers, it will show you that it actually costs you money in terms of delivering projects. You can actually only work on one thing at a time. So when you do, focus 100%, no interruptions, turn off those blessed notifications that ping up every time you open your email or open your phone or whatever it is, and do the one thing you are doing. Because multitasking is a fallacy. And everybody, if you ever hear anybody say, oh, I'm really good at multitasking, just laugh, because they will be running around like lunatics, being really so busy but their so busyness is actually self-inflicted because they're not focusing on things one thing at a time.
Yeah, there's a fantastic video on the internet that I get all my teenagers to do around that one, and they, by the end of it, they're like, okay, we get the point. Excellent.
You can actually play with numbers coming out of projects if you really need something that shows you the difference it makes. If you take some very simple numbers, you know, the difference in revenue stream over 6 months is huge. I mean, it's 30%. I mean, it's absolutely enormous because you just never quite get anything finished. So yeah.
Yeah, you lose 40% of your productivity each time you go to a different task, at least.
Yeah, at least.
So there we go. Right. Next one is again very dear to my heart. Why do you believe that having a full description of your customer journey is so fundamental?
So one of the things is my background is I used to do a lot of process mapping. So I love flowcharts. I like doing things diagrammatically and doing things. If you think about your customer's journey, it starts from the moment that they are aware of you. They may at that point not even know you're their solution, but they're aware of you, right through to them being an advocate and to being a long-term client. It's really important to understand the steps along that journey in quite a lot of detail, so you know exactly what marketing collateral you need. So if they're at the awareness stage, so they're very, very, you know, at the very, very top of your sales funnel, what's their journey through the funnel? You know, what's the marketing collateral? What's the touch points? What are the resources you need to actually have those processes implemented? Is that expertise? Is that technology? Is it premises? You know, what is it that needs to be in place? And then as they go through the journey, what are all the processes? What outcomes do they get along the route? But also, where are the revenue opportunities along the route? So if you start with somebody coming to, you know, we have a process around lead magnets, obviously, as a lot of companies do. You know, we have free workshops, we take people to a paid workshop, they then come to our other products. Where are the revenue spots along there? And are you actually exploiting all the assets in your business to create that revenue at the appropriate place? If you don't have the map, how do you know what comes next? And how do you know what the branches are? Because it won't necessarily be linear. You know, you might get somebody who comes and they'll pay for a, you know, £47 workshop, but they're not really quite ready to pay for the £397 workshops. But they might buy another 47. You know, so where are you taking them each time so that you know what the revenue spot is, what the marketing is, what the follow-up process is, all of those pieces. If you don't know that, how do you taking people through your sales funnel? It's going to be random. It's not going to be as consistent as it could. It's not going to be as efficient as it could. And it won't actually generate as much revenue as it could. And, you know, people seem to forget that business is about generating revenue. You know, even if you're a charity, you still have to generate revenue. You know, we want the revenue to be bigger than our costs. It's a very simple equation. But we don't look at that customer journey and say, where are all the revenue spots? You know, so I've written the book, we've got a 7 big mistakes report. They're all the collateral that sit around our customer journey that actually generate revenue. So I think it's really, really important for people to take that time. It is not a small job, which is why people don't get around to doing it.
I think the other thing about the customer journey is that we've obviously got some people who are employees, slightly larger businesses on here, is that it's equally valuable in any size of business to be reviewing what your customer journey is all the time. And, you know, I think there's quite a lot of larger businesses who go, oh, it's in place now, and then don't necessarily go back and review it and say, well, is it actually working? Is it still fit for purpose? So thank you very much for that. So the last one then is, if we know somebody out there, or if it's applicable to ourselves, what are the various different areas in which we can get help from the Business Kitchen?
So the target market is MSE business owners, successful MSE business owners who realise that they are not exploiting the full potential of their business, which is a lot of businesses, because I don't know if people know, there's a book from Dan Priestley about the 24 assets you have in your business. And this is not about your balance sheet assets. This is about all the other things you've got in your business. So the idea with those business owners is to create these scalable, robust businesses, but at a much smaller scale than some of the people that Granger and Mike are dealing with. You know, this is the MSME. So we really want to work with business owners or it has to be somebody in the business who is the decision maker. Because otherwise their agenda is different. You know, they're not connected with the mission and vision of the business. So there's 3 ways that people can work with me. One is the Profit Makers Framework, which is my private client work, which is obviously bespoke one-on-one sessions going through. We agree a 6-month plan, and then we work through every month what tools you need, what actions you need to take. Every single thing I always run always comes out with an action plan using the Galahad process. There's accountability, but it is that real focus on a particular business. The second way is the Solution Membership, which is a monthly meeting of a very small group of people. We're starting a new cohort in October, which will be a maximum of 20. And we will take a topic for a business. So we could take part of the customer journey. This week we looked at reviews and testimonials. We have a digital delights section. So we we share ideas around pieces of tech that might be appropriate. And then there's an optional challenge. And of course there is homework, because whenever you work with me, there's always homework. Even if you have a free workshop, there's going to be homework. And then the final one, which is coming in back end of September, is the Knowledge Vault, which is going to be a self-service toolbox resource centre where you'll be able to go in and find how-to guides and templates and checklists and just all sorts of resources that you can tap into 24/7 to do something in your business. You know, you suddenly think, oh, I need to do a SWOT. Don't quite remember how to do a SWOT. Oh, I'll go into the Knowledge Vault. There's a how-to guide. There's the templates. There's the key do's and don'ts, and then there's what to do with the SWOT once you've actually done it, because you need to exploit that too. So a range, basically. So private client work is obviously limited numbers. Cohort, we've got 3 solution cohorts running at the moment, and the next one starts in October, and then there won't be another one until March. So
fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Gill? Silence. Oh, Granger, over to you.
Hi, Gill. That was awesome. Thank you very much. So, yeah, we're both in a similar sort of business, a slightly different target market. But I'm always challenged by the question of why don't business owners actually do this? There's so much of this stuff out there. There's millions of books. I've read lots of them. I've got lots of structures and everything else within the way we do stuff. So I'm just interested in your opinion. Why don't we do this stuff? Or don't they?
I suspect, I don't know, my suspicion is because if you think about particularly very small businesses, you know, how many people drift into running their own business because, you know, get made redundant or the pandemic, you know, there's some event that they think, oh, you know, I could go and do this myself. And they don't avail themselves. I mean, one of the things, I mean, not all Gloucestershire businesses here, but one of the things that Gloucestershire's got is these amazing growth hubs. You know, it's such a huge resource. I mean, they are sort of in competition with you and I, but that's sort of fine. They don't do that initial business plan. You know, they haven't got their life goals. It's almost they wake up on a Monday morning and they're going to run a business, and there's no real why, there's no real purpose, there's no real, you know, outcomes, and so it just sort of happens. And I think some of it is they don't know what they don't know. They don't know they should be doing this stuff, and therefore they don't look for it. So yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I do find it weird.
Thank you. Yeah.
I would definitely agree. It falls into the don't know what you don't know. So unless you go and get a list of this is what you need to set up a business, people, they just kind of go for it.
Just go for it, don't they? You know. Yeah.
So yeah. Any other questions for Gill?
Just a comment, and that's exactly the topic and focus of my book, Gill. And that's why I say that it's why 50% of people in business survive despite their best not to, and the other half fail.
I guess my question, John, would be: are they actually running a business, or are they actually running a job?
Well, or experiencing a hobby. Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's why I was saying about, you know, Entrepreneur Circle, Nigel Bottrell talks about you need to step out of the weeds. And most businesses are running in the weeds because they're actually just in that, you know, they're working in the business every day. And actually, really, it's sort of a job.
Yeah. Well, it's no different to being a professional athlete.
Yeah.
There's the best one. There's the vast majority, which is somewhere in the middle of the field. And then there's loads that are way at the back.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is, as well, is that, you know, part of looking at your strategy is where are the investment points, either in terms of funding. You know, if you want to make a step change in your business, at some point, you're probably going to either have to put some funding in or you're going to have to put some resource in. You know, it's not going to, unless you're in e-commerce and it's highly automated and it's all online, actually there's no real, you know, it's turning the handle the whole time, which most of the businesses on here are relational businesses rather than transactional.
Yep.
you know, at some point you're going to hit, and if you haven't planned for it, you're going to be a bit stuck.
Do you agree with Stephen Covey's plan with starting with the end in mind?
Yeah, I saw your comment. Yeah, it's a brilliant book. But like you, I didn't read it until I was well into having started the business.
And just for people on the call, a simple example, I started my first platform online and called it .com.au, whereas I should have been .com, because I had a global intention, but I was only focusing on an Australian domain name. So even Simon would agree with that. So if I'd have started with the end in mind, I would have started with a .com. It would have saved me a lot of money.
Well, you wouldn't be here today.
There you go.
Brilliant. Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to hand back over to Gill again, who's going to pick up for the rest of the meeting.